Welcome to NewsRap Local. I'm your host, Justin Chapman. Thanks for being here. After providing a few brief updates on this month's local stories, we'll speak with our guest, Pasadena City Council member, Jess Rivas. But before we get started, let's check out these Pasadena media news briefs.
The Pasadena City Council has reappointed 3 commissioners of the Community Police Oversight Commission. The council unanimously approved the reappointments of Alexis Aberneth on behalf of the Lynx Pasadena Altadena chapter and Florence Anang on behalf of the National NAACP Pasadena branch, as well as Juliana Serrano on behalf of All Saints Church. The vote came a week after the Public Safety Committee recommended the reappointment of the 3 incumbent commissioners for a full 3-year term. The Oversight Committee is comprised of 11 members, 8 nominated by the City Council and 3 nominated by community-based organizations. The city received a total of 5 applications. The 2 remaining applicants are Kim Santel, who applied on behalf of Rainbow Rescue, and Tina Williams on behalf of Harambee Ministries. The Police Oversight Commission was created by the city to develop, strengthen, and enhance community police relations, as well as to review and make recommendations regarding the ongoing operations of the Pasadena Police Department. High school students across Pasadena rallied during the last week of school to pay homage to the victims of recent mass shootings and to press legislators to introduce new laws that will protect against future attacks. Students from all high schools throughout the PUSD united for a walkout on the final day of school, Thursday, June 2nd. Organized by a student-led coalition, the PUSD Student Think Tank, the peaceful protests sought to bring awareness to the continued state of fear and outrage brought on by active shooter situations. Students presented the idea to district leaders and campus officials who helped them plan ways to broadcast their message on a larger scale. The students were responding to assaults such as the shootings at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, the attack in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the May 14th shootings at a supermarket in Buffalo, New York, and the Laguna Woods Presbyterian Church shooting. Holding handmade signs crafted of paper and cardboard, participants said they were prompted to disrupt the final day of school because their lives depend on it. Results from the primary election in June have come in. District 3 incumbent John J. Kennedy beat out challenger Brandon Lamar. District 5 candidate Jess Rivas won after running unopposed. District 7 candidate Jason Lyon declared victory and will replace Andy Wilson. The City Council candidates will be sworn in December. In races for seats on the Pasadena City College Board of Trustees, the challengers pulled off upsets over all local incumbents. Steve Gibson, Christine Kwong, and Alton Wang defeated incumbents Berlinda Brown, Linda Wah, and Anthony Fellow. All winning city council candidates received more than 50% of the vote, avoiding a November election runoff.
An update in the good news department. I won 3 LA Press Club Journalism Awards last month, including 3rd place in TV Public Affairs for hosting this show, NewsRap Local, another 3rd place for entertainment features for my story about Paradise Springs in Elias, and a 1st place award for travel reporting for my story about Slab City in Culture Honey magazine, a Pasadena-based digital publication. This show also recently came in 2nd place in news programming at the Alliance for Community Media's Wave Awards. So thank you again to the Pasadena Media team for making this now award-winning show possible, and thank you for watching. Let's turn next to our lightning round of news updates. 1. Miguel Marquez has been selected as Pasadena's new city manager. He will begin August 29th. He currently serves as the Chief Operating Officer of Santa Clara County and previously served as an Associate Justice of the California 6th District Court of Appeal, as the County Counsel for Santa Clara County, and as the General Counsel of the San Francisco Unified School District, and as a Deputy City Attorney in the San Francisco City Attorney's Office. He said he plans to live in Pasadena and will be the first city manager to do so in 15 years. In addition to his $330,000 annual salary, he'll receive $30,000 to relocate, a $2,000 monthly housing allowance, and a $600 monthly vehicle allowance. The total annual cost of his salary, retirement, and benefits will be about $525,000. Marquez called Pasadena one of the greatest cities in America. Pasadena needs a good city manager right now. So best of luck to Justice Marquez. And if I can offer a word of advice, be collaborative, inclusive, and accessible. Listen to the residents of Pasadena and consider all points of view. 2. The California Transportation Commission voted unanimously to approve relinquishment of the 710 Northern Stub to the city of Pasadena. In a statement, the city said, after decades of uncertainty regarding the future of the 710 Stub, the Commission's action marks a historic moment. The city has long sought to re-envision and rebuild what was once an integral and vibrant part of Pasadena. We can now move forward with planning efforts and work closely with residents on identifying future transportation connections and land uses for the stub. In addition to returning the 50 acres of property to Pasadena, the city will also receive a one-time payment of $5 million. 3. The Lemley Playhouse 7 in the Playhouse District, which opened February 5th, 1999, ended its tenure on June 30th this year. For its final run of showing independent films, the theater hosted the Pasadena Film Festival. Landmark Theaters has entered into a long-term lease agreement to take over the theater and will continue to operate it as an art house theater. After renovations, Landmark plans to reopen the Playhouse 7 later this summer. 4. The West Nile virus has been confirmed in mosquitoes in Pasadena. Vector control experts advise everyone to eliminate all stagnant water and wear non-toxic repellent. They told Pasadena Now that just because there's a drought, that does not mean mosquitoes with West Nile are any less of a threat. There is no cure for West Nile. 1 in 5 individuals infected with the virus will exhibit symptoms, including fever, headache, body aches, nausea, or skin rash, which can last for several days or months. 1 in 150 people infected with the virus will require hospitalization. Severe symptoms include high fever, muscle weakness, neck stiffness, coma, paralysis, and even death. So do your part to prevent the spread of mosquitoes. The California legislature passed Assemblymember Chris Holden's AB 178, which allocates $3 million for the Rose Bowl Stadium to ensure proper gas and water infrastructure improvements, and $5 million for the Pasadena Central Library seismic retrofit project, which could cost up to $111 million, which is $30 million more than previously estimated. 6. Now that the city manager has been selected, the next big hire will be the police chief. Independent police auditor Richard Rosenthal said the next chief should be collaborative and open to civilian oversight, and he's right. Meanwhile, the City Council reappointed 3 commissioners of the Community Police Oversight Commission, and commissioners re-elected its chair and vice chair. The council also conducted the second reading of an ordinance that requires the police department to publicly list all city-owned military-grade weapons, and also passed an ordinance that makes it a crime to possess ghost guns and ghost gun kits. Separate but related, less than 2 hours after the Supreme Court ruled that citizens have the right to carry a gun outside their home, the Pasadena Police Department received a request for a concealed carry permit. 7. The City Council voted 6-1 to adopt the city's $955 million fiscal year 2023 operating budget. Councilmember Felicia Williams voted against it because she said she was not comfortable approving the Rose Bowl's budget. The city has been covering millions of dollars of the stadium's debt. 8. The Design Commission is considering a new temporary 80 feet long, 24 feet wide pedestrian bridge in Brookside Golf Course, which will accommodate two-way pedestrian traffic between the east and west areas of the golf course during music festivals and other events. Commissioners said they anticipate that it will end up being a permanent bridge. Golden Voice AEG, which produces many of the music festivals that take place in the Arroyo, requested the bridge to facilitate crowd movement from one stage to another. 9. The City Council voted to submit a ballot initiative for the November 8th election to renew the parcel tax to support the Pasadena Library, which is currently set to expire in February 2023. That tax accounts for 20% of the library system's budget, and it is typically passed by a large majority of Pasadena voters, usually over 80%. Passage requires 2/3 of the vote. A city staff report said that losing this funding source would mean a drastic reduction in library collections, programs, services, and availability. And 10, the Pasadena Unified School Board approved a resolution supporting the upcoming rent control charter amendment initiative that will be on the ballot in November. If approved, the measure would cap annual rent increases at 2 to 3%, establish a new rental housing board, establish a registry of rental properties in the city, and limit evictions to just causes only. Let's patch in our guest, Pasadena City Council member Jess Rivas. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Jess Rivas represents District 5 on the council. She recently ran unopposed for her seat after originally being appointed last year, which I think speaks to how the community views the job she's doing representing them. She currently works as a staff counsel for the LA County Employees Retirement Association. She previously served as a deputy attorney general with the California Department of Justice, a deputy county counsel with LA County, and as a major in the U.S. Army Reserve. She also previously served on the city's Northwest Commission and the Commission on the Status of Women, and she graduated from Princeton and New York University School of Law. So, a council member, Pasadena has a new city manager. What should his priorities be, and what do you hope he focuses on in the near term?
Yeah, so in terms of the operation of the city as a public entity, I think the budget has to be a top priority. And the budget, touches everything, of course. So it touches, our recovery from the pandemic, the Rose Bowl, which we'll probably discuss, the strength of our local economy, being able to continue to provide the services that our residents expect from us, et cetera, you name it, it kind of touches everything. And so I'm really excited about the council, both individually and collectively, being able to share our vision with Miguel, our new city manager, about what we want to see prioritized in the budget. And I know for me, my top priorities are that I'm going to be bringing up in those conversations is for our affordable housing and homelessness. We need to keep people housed. We need to lend a hand to our neighbors experiencing homelessness. And I'm really interested through our budget process of establishing more consistent lines of funding that aren't dependent on, in lieu fees from developers or grants from the state or county or federal government, just more consistent lines of funding to address those key issues in our city.
Mm-hmm. And of course, the next big hire will be the police chief. What kind of chief would you like to see?
Yeah, that's definitely going to be probably one of the city managers, probably the city manager's biggest, most important hire. So I'd like to see a couple of things, or several things. First, I really want someone who understands that state and federal law set a floor or the bare minimum of what is acceptable conduct for officers. So just because we meet that threshold, that shouldn't be the end of the analysis. We as Pasadenans can and should demand more. Second, I really hope we find a police chief who values the Oversight Commission and sees it as an asset and a partner. Hopefully they can use it as a sounding board to learn what the community wants from our department, what is our department doing well, where can it improve, and just really establishes a good relationship with the Oversight Commission. And last, I really hope we find someone who will prioritize de-escalation and hopefully have a goal to make our city a leader in de-escalation. Because that's how everyone gets home safe at the end of the day. Anyone who interacts with our police department, residents or visitors, bystanders, and our officers themselves. So it really has to be a top priority.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, and the commission sort of went through a bit of a reset recently, new independent police auditor. They reelected the chair and vice chair. Do you think that that commission, as established now, has enough teeth, has enough authority to do what it needs to do, or do you see modifying it as time goes on?
I think we'll see. I think you're right. They kind of got off to a start and then had to restart with a new auditor. So I think we'll see how it goes over the course of this next year. And if they're feeling like they're not really, like they don't have enough teeth to do what they need to do, I'm totally open to exploring that.
Mm-hmm. And what you mentioned affordability, housing affordability. What do you think about the upcoming rent control ballot measure? Why is that needed right now?
Yeah, so I've supported and I've endorsed the campaign. I think it's a common sense way to allow landlords to be able to raise rents a reasonable amount while avoiding those really high rent increases that become de facto eviction notices and can push people out of our city and, in the worst case scenario, onto the street. It's needed now because people's budgets are already stretched so thin right now. I keep talking to residents in my district who tell me they've lived here for a long time, sometimes decades, sometimes their whole lives. The way rent keeps going up, they don't think they're going to be able to hold on much longer. That's how they phrase it. It's like, I don't know that I can hold on. And that's a tragedy. If we're losing our residents who have gone to school here, raised families here, who work here, we're losing our community. That's who we are at a fundamental level. I have supported it and I'm eager to see how it does. And I'm going to be working hard to make sure it's passed.
Mhm. And what are some other measures the city could and should take to make this city a more affordable place to live?
Yeah, I think one of the main things the city has to do, and it is directly in our power to do, it's right in our wheelhouse. It's our job to do, is to make it more possible to build more housing, which we have to do because we're in a housing crisis. And that, of course, takes the form of our zoning code and allowing for more density. Right now, we're going through the process of reviewing our specific plans. They're each coming up before us over a matter of months. And though each of those specific plans have gone through a very rigorous process with staff, with consultants, with the Planning Commission, and literally years of community input. And so I've taken the position when those have come before us that I won't vote to approve a specific plan if my colleagues want to decrease the density in those plans, because staff basically already and the community have already told us what we need, and we all know we need to do more around this area. So I'm not going to vote to decrease it from what their recommendation is.
And the state has officially relinquished the 710 stub land back to the city. What do you think should be done with those 50 acres, and how should the African American, Japanese American, Hispanic communities that were predominant in that area before the freeway displaced them, how should they be taken into account?
Yeah, this is a really special and unique opportunity to heal really a deep scar in our community. I think it's both a physical scar that literally divides our city, but as you point out, it's a scar that represents the displacement of so many Pasadena families. I'm not an architect, so I'm kind of eager to see what physically is possible there, but I think the top priorities are things I would love to see play a big role would be more housing for kind of the reasons we've already discussed, and hopefully some open space as well. I think it's important that we have open space where we can. Of course, we're a relatively built out city, so this is an opportunity to add some housing and also preserve some open space. As for all the displaced African American, Japanese, Latino families, I think their experience and that history absolutely has to be taken into account throughout the entire process. It would be a disservice not only to them, but our entire city to ignore that history and try to just move on and pretend that didn't happen. So I think at every step of the way, it's going to be a long process to figure out what goes in there, but that needs to be forefront in our considerations.
Have you heard the city officials talking about, or have you been part of discussions about what that process will look like, determining what that land is used for, how the public's input will be collected and utilized?
Nothing specific. I know the last time or two it came before the council, there was some language about having community involvement. So I don't know anything specific beyond that, but I really look forward to that getting up and running.
Mm-hmm. And then you also mentioned the Rose Bowl earlier. So what needs to be done to ensure that it remains competitive in this saturated Southern California venue market, while also taking care of its debt obligations and balancing its budget, which has been a challenge for a while?
Yeah, and I'll add another challenge to that, just the radically shifting circumstances of college football or college sports. I think no one expected USC and UCLA to leave the Pac-12 for the Big Ten. And I know there's some optimism that having more Big Ten games and more fans coming out for regular season games is going to be a good thing. But, what does that mean for the Rose Bowl long term? And I think it's too early to say. We'll see how it goes. And I don't want to be needlessly alarmist, but it does make me a little uneasy that something that we considered so concrete, such a fundamental part of college sports and the college football landscape, changed overnight. So I think we need to be really monitoring that closely. Mm-hmm. In terms of what we need to do, I think we need to explore as many different opportunities as possible. I don't think there's going to be a single thing that solves the issue with the Rose Bowl and its budget. So I think we have to look at a more diverse set of ways to generate income or revenue, and that hopefully will lay a better foundation moving forward.
Mm-hmm. And then what can the city do to combat climate change?
Yeah, so we have our own electric utility. Not all cities have that. So there's a lot we can do through that and a lot that we need to do. I think the main thing is that we have to continue to shift from a reliance on fossil fuels to renewable energy in our energy production, which we are doing, but we need to continue to do that and look for ways to accelerate that progress because we are in a climate emergency. There's some other things we can do as well, and we've done a few things recently. We recently passed a building electrification ordinance, so that requires new construction in the city to be built fully electric without natural gas. And there's some pretty big exceptions to that. and so I kind of wanted to minimize the number of exceptions. Again, recognizing we're in a climate emergency, this isn't time to take half measures. We have to do as much as we can. For example, one thing was whether or not ADUs should be included. I thought it made sense since we're building so many ADUs, and it's actually cheaper to build an ADU if you don't have to run a gas line out there. But we'll be revisiting it soon, I believe next year. So at that point, hopefully we can add more items like ADUs and other structures. We had the gas-powered leaf blower ban recently. I know that came up, not primarily, but a big part of it was that people were upset about the noise, and electric leaf blowers are much quieter. But I was just shocked to fully comprehend how big of a pollutant they are. So that was a big step that we took, and I look forward to that going into effect. And then lastly, I mean, there's tons of things, but kind of something that comes up periodically before the council is just purchasing hybrid and electric vehicles to age our aging gas-powered fleet. So the city has a lot of cars, so we might as well convert those as we can.
Right. And what has your experience on the council been like so far? There seems to be a bit of a ideological divide on the council. Is that your sense? And has it been productive? Is it tackling the issues you would like it to?
So I've really enjoyed representing my neighbors on the council and working with my colleagues on the council, working with staff. So that's why I decided to run and to continue serving. In terms of an ideological divide, I wouldn't say we have one in the traditional sense. You know, it's not, most votes don't break down along party lines or liberal versus conservative lines. In fact, I think since I've been on the council for the last year and a half, I think there's only one vote that broke down that way, and that was for hero pay back in February of last year. That was a 4-4 vote. There were a couple 5-3 votes, but even those weren't on clear ideological or party lines. I think the ideological difference, I'd say difference, not necessarily divide, that I kind of feel as a new member, I think I've hopefully established myself as one of the more progressive or liberal or lefty members of the council, whichever word you want to use there. And so sometimes I will take a position that the rest of the council isn't quite there yet. Hopefully they are, or I can persuade a few more to get there. But that's kind of if there's an ideological difference, or that's what I've felt since I've been on the council.
Mm-hmm. It seems like they're making incremental progress down that, like civilian oversight, for example, or similar issues. What are some issues that are specific to your district, to District 5?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much. So of course, affordable housing and homelessness. Lots of folks come up to me asking what the city can do, they can be doing more. Lots of folks come up to me asking about rent control, and let them know like there currently isn't rent control in the city, but it's going to be on the ballot, so look out for that. Right now, following the eviction moratorium expiring back in early June, a ton of residents in District 5 have gotten eviction notices. There's actually like on all along one street, like 3 or 4 buildings, I believe, where almost every resident got an eviction notice. And of course, those are people who, have lived here a long time, who contribute to our community, go to work here, raise their kids here. And now they're just scrambling. They're trying to figure out, how can we fight this to be able to stay in our community? Because they know, like, they were barely able to afford that. And now to find somewhere else in Pasadena, it's just, they're priced out. So affordable housing, homelessness, rent control, those are the issues that I hear over and over again from my residents right now.
Right. And then, of course, you just got reelected, or rather elected for the first time. But what's next for your career, your political career? Are you considering pursuing other political offices at some point?
So I never planned to be a politician in the first place. It's not something I was scheming to do or had it was in the works for years. So I definitely don't have a grand plan about what I want my political career to look like. I'm really happy and honored to be able to serve right now. I suppose the flip side of that, though, is that maybe years from now, even though I'm not planning for it, an opportunity will arise where I think, hey, maybe this is a way for me to serve our community in a different way. I'm really not looking for that. So I don't want to say never, but I really don't see that happening anytime soon, or even wanting to explore that.
Well, congratulations on your election, and doing a great job on the council. And just thank you so much for coming on the show and talking to us about your work. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much. It's great to see you.
All right, take care.
All right, see ya.
Before we go, here is this month in Pasadena history. It was this month in 1893 that the Echo Mountain Incline Railway opened. The project was founded by Professor Thaddeus Lowe. The trip took 2 hours from Pasadena up a 62% grade to Echo Mountain and then Mount Lowe, where people could visit the Alpine Tavern and the Echo Mountain Hotel, a 5.8-mile-long journey, 1,500 feet up in the San Gabriel Mountains, which some at the time called the American Alps. The chariots, or opera boxcars, carried up to 60 people at a time. Visitors could hike, ride horses, go to a zoo, play pool, and enjoy the view. The venture ultimately wasn't profitable, which, along with a series of natural disasters, caused the closure of the Mount Lowe Railway in 1938. The hotel and the tavern had long since burned down by then. Thank you all so much for joining me for this episode of NewsRap Local. Tune in every third Friday of the month at 5 p.m. Learn more at pasadenamedia.org and justindouglaschapman.com. Sign up for my monthly email newsletter to get updates on my work by visiting justinchapman.substack.com. See you next month.